the next phase of the moon is coming, which means that Síne and I are back to read a little bit more from Moonology about how this phase of the moon support our development. On the next moon is Saturday morning. It's going to be a new moon, and it's going to be a new moon in Pisces. And this is quite an exciting set of opportunities and things that we can set new intentions with the new moon and have those supported by the moon. It will help us. So, okay, what's the first one, Síne Beans?
Dream. The lovely dreamy place that is Pisces. This is the home of dreams, mystical matters, and compassion. Think about what you're thinking about. Think about what you're dreaming about, and use your imagination for good. That means to attract all that you want. This is the new moon when you can work on releasing fear. So what do you think about that?
I always remember what our friend Stone says when he says that worry is an abuse of the imagination, and we can so easily drift into worry about this or that will happen, and then that kind of by giving attention and focus to the worst things that can go wrong, we see the worst things going wrong. And my experience really has been, I'll give you an example. I spent some time talking about how it's been my dream since I was a child to get a castle in Ireland, and I've often thought about it and often seen these abandoned castles, and I spent 2 or 3 days talking about it, and I got a text message from a friend in India saying, could I help him buy a castle? And I said yes, I could, and he wanted to buy a castle in England, and I said, well, actually, I think it'd be much better to get a castle in Ireland. And he said, well, that sounds much better. And then he said, I'd like your help to manage it and run it. So I suddenly kind of came off the call and went, oh, if I actually give it some attention, and if I make it my new intention to follow up on this castle, I haven't given it much thought since, but maybe, just maybe, if I do nothing and I do no supporting actions, then this dream won't come true. And if I indulge myself in worrying about everything that could go wrong or everything that could be difficult, then the dream won't come true. But if I make it my intention with my supporting actions to actually investigate what castles are available and communicate and in good faith and imagine it'll all work out, then who knows? We could have a castle in Ireland. How about that? That would be a dream come true for me.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay, so number 2, face your fears. The new moon in Pisces is also about secrets, and sometimes about lies. It's about the things you don't want to admit to ourselves or to anyone else. Do an inventory of your fears at the time of this new moon, and you could find yourself liberating yourself of some of your fears. These spineless little critters often run in the opposite direction when they're confronted head on, and now is the time to do that. How do you think we could face our fears right now?
Well, at the moment, with the whole COVID pandemic and stuff, going back to school and going back to work is a great way to face your fears, even if you do have to do it, probably. I mean, not probably, you do have to. And it could be, you could be afraid of doing that, but once you do it, it's not that bad, really.
Yeah, you can just do it, or you can do it in fear. I think we talked about this before, haven't we? Where that wonderful quote from J.K. Rowling, and I always get the book wrong, but
Fantastic
creatures. It's like, it's worth saying it again, isn't it?
Yeah, to worry is to suffer twice.
Yeah. Right, what's next?
Get cosmic. Because of all the mystical energy around when the Pisces energy is so strong, it's a wonderful time to work on your intuitive skills, make a note of your hunches and see what transpires. Play around with tarot or archangel cards and test your results.
I've had some really good experiences with drawing cards recently, and it's been, they've been really supportive and helpful to me. I've been drawing cards, and they've given me a lot of encouragement to continue. And they've also sometimes brought up things that I need to concern myself about and look into in a bit more detail. But yeah, overall, I'd say that is something really quite practical that you can do, and you can just allow that energy and those stories to support you. And if there's a good website at tarot.com, tarot.com, where you can also do a reading in a web page, and they seem to work really well. It's very difficult not to be suspicious that there's not some algorithm trying to, but and it's better if you've got cards to actually just use the cards. But yeah, that's been really helpful for me, definitely.
Yeah, it's great.
Number 4, heal. If you're suffering emotionally or spiritually, note that there's extra easy access to healing energies when the new moon in Pisces takes place. The sign is usually associated with Neptune, a planet that has the power to take ethereal shreds of an idea and turn them into daydreams. And as we all know, daydreams can come true thanks to the law of attraction. If you need spiritual healing, seek out a healer. Ask friends for a recommendation. Also make a list of what being healed would entail for you and see it happening. Then tick things off as they come to pass. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the list sounds great. And also the law of attraction is when, if you think about good things, you're more likely to attract good things. Whereas if you think about bad things and expect bad things, then you're more likely to attract bad things.
Yeah, I have a friend who describes it as energy goes where attention flows, and there's this kind of idea that we have a consciousness, as well as being people in a body and doing things, that there's also that part of consciousness where we can observe ourselves, and when we're observing ourselves, who is it that's seeing what we do? And it's like there's some people say it's like our soul or our higher person, and that it's been my experience that, and then there's a real theme developing here actually through everything we've talked about, isn't there? That if we choose to see the good things that are happening, then we get more of that, and we can choose. And somebody put it beautifully recently. They said, there's only the choice to act out of love or fear, and then when we act out of love, then we bring more love into our lives, and when we act out of fear, then we kind of close those things off, and we protect ourselves and maybe keep ourselves, if we feel safe, but we don't necessarily invite as much into our lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, well, what's the last one?
The last one is surrender. Note that Pisces is about dreams, so write down your dreams this month. What do you want? What are your fantasies, sexual or otherwise? Seek bliss, surrender to the universe, and trust that what you need is what's happening. Practicing yoga and other spiritual activities is highly recommended around the time of the Pisces new moon and beyond. This is the time to access your higher self, the part of you that knows you're connected to all life everywhere.
Well, I think we should have read that in advance. Actually, do you know what? This is a really good point about surrender. I've been studying this idea of surrender and found it really hard for a long time. And in the last couple of weeks, it became really clear what it means. And actually, and it's so true, isn't it? Is that if you try and control other people and try and think that I will get my happiness from what somebody else will do for me, then I'll probably get quite frustrated. Whereas if I accept that it's what I can do for myself that will lead to my happiness, not in a selfish way, but if I can look at my own my own actions and my own, things that I do that aren't helping myself, which really at its heart is I've got a choice. If somebody does something I don't like, I can choose to be upset about it, or I can just choose to practice acceptance of them exactly as they are, and sometimes people do things which are frustrating. But the truth is, if I try and change them, then I'm just going to increase my frustration. Whereas if I accept them as where they are and look at my part in it, so maybe instead of thinking about, I said this and that to them and then they got upset, I can look at how I could have thought more about where they were coming from and what was important to them, and how not to upset them, or to just accept what they're saying is true, rather than thinking about how I would change their mind. And whereas if I look more at myself, then I guess the surrender is in accepting that I can't control anyone else, but what I can control is how I react to what anyone else does, and then find happiness in that. I don't know if that makes sense. Surrender to the universe. Trust what you need is happening. Yeah. It's not easy, but it is simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go. Any other just quick last thoughts about the whole thing? It does seem to be quite some of the months it's been quite practical. There's been a lot of practical things to do, whereas this really is about encouraging us to dream and wish for the things we really want. I don't know if I'll get a castle or not, but it's not my castle, is it? It's a castle for somebody else that I'll look after. But maybe got used to having a castle. Did I get one of my own? Who knows? I can't really imagine it at the moment.
Around the castle.
I guess that as well, Yasmin Boand talks about that, is that the really important thing to concentrate is what it would feel like. How nice would it feel to stand on the roof of my castle looking out for miles across beautiful Irish countryside, and that feels really lovely. And rather than thinking about the thing, thinking about the feeling is what really brings that into happening. And for any dream that you have, it's really thinking about how it would feel to have it is what makes it worthwhile. And I guess going back to what I said about the surrender, thinking about not being in conflict with anybody, that feels really good. And so if I concentrate on the feeling of how nice it would be to get on with everybody, rather than the feeling about proving I'm right about this or proving I'm right about that, which doesn't feel nice. You know, it's easy to see which one I'd choose. Anything else?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, well, let's say goodbye then. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye. I hope you come back next month when we'll go start the whole inner cycle again.